Hey, Anton.
Yeah, Margaret?
You know what people don't talk about enough?
What?
Willow low-key stalking Simon's Instagram and August walking in thinking he was jerking off. Welcome to People Don't Talk About Young Royals. I'm Margaret. My pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Anton. My pronouns are he, they.
And we're people here to discuss the show our friends are sick of hearing us talk about.
If that sounds like you, stick around. If your friend sent you this podcast out of a desperate attempt to get you to watch Young Royals, take this as a sign.
Go watch Young Royals, then come back to this podcast.
Margaret, what are we talking about today?
Today we will be having a plot discussion of Season 1, Episode 2, focusing on the relationship between Wilhelm and Simon.
Yes. In this discussion, we won't be summarizing the plot of the episode because we already did that. If you need or want a refresher, head back one episode in our feed to the most recent This Week at Hilarska for a full breakdown. This episode discussion will likely be all over the place, so strap in. You have been warned. All right, listeners, we promised you.
We did promise this. I don't even know if anybody remembers because it was so long ago, but I remember and I've been waiting for this moment.
Yes. So if listeners don't remember, because it was literal months ago, for you, and even longer for us
too.
Oh yeah. Like even longer for us. Like we recorded this episode back in back when I was still hiding in my closet.
Yeah. Literally, not figuratively.
Yeah.
I used to record these episodes in my closet. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah. Basically, we said that it would be way too spoilery for us to explain what we think happened between episodes 1 and 2, because it would involve knowing what happens at the start of episode 2. And I can't even remember if we formally established this on the podcast, but we try to make sure that these episodes are only spoiling the episode they're about. And so yeah, that's what we're gonna do now. Is our official People Don't Talk About headcanon for what happens between 1 and 2. Margaret, you're hosting. Start us off.
Okay. So I have what I want to have happened and then what I think actually happened. So what I want to have happened was I want them to kiss. I don't think that's what happened. I don't. I think they just sat there and were staring at each other and staring at each other's lips like they are in the end of that scene for a while. And I think Simon was like, I could kiss this guy right now. And I think Willow was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm not mad about it. Don't know what this feeling is, though. And I think that's why they were slightly awkward during the on the table. Not because something happened, but because one person wanted it to happen and the other person was like, I want this to happen, but I don't know what this is.
Yeah. For the most part, I definitely agree. I think, I said, I feel confident they didn't kiss. And my one piece of literal evidence is that Willa is not stressed out enough at the start of episode 2. Because plain and simple, this is going to sound spoilery, but you've all based on this episode, by the end, he would have already had a panic attack if that had actually happened.
Big time.
And in terms of literal logistics, what I think happened is August and Nils went off, the coast was clear. And once the coast was clear, one of them broke it off, or both of them. And I'm curious to see, just at our final, pinpointing of details, who do you think actually broke the moment?
Probably Simon, because Willow was drunk.
I was thinking so too. For reasons that I think I will get into later, and I don't want to repeat myself. So I have a lot of I have thoughts. But yeah. With that, let's actually get into the actual episode. I feel weird about this. I literally thought of our format for how these episodes are meant to be structured last cycle, and then I kind of did something different. But it was kind of because I was strapped for time, and also it's just I feel I think about this episode differently because it's pilots are different than second episodes. Where it's we no longer have introductions and like scenes, I feel like now we have what I'm calling threads, where like there are like threads through the episode that I basically kept like basically tracked with scenes that I feel like they belong to. And like we can still go chronologically, but I'm just like just so we say like I'm gonna have categories that like scenes fall into, and like for me analyzing this episode was basically a matter of like what scenes fall into which category that I want to talk about. How did you organize it?
I went scene by scene, so I rewatched it this morning. And I did scene by scene, and just like not in the same way we do this weekend, but
like you did, you kind of just like pinpointed the things that in the scene that would make sense. That's kind of what I did with the first episode. So we've potentially like switched.
I think we did.
Yeah,
I think we did.
So I guess in that case, just so that I have like the larger structure to kind of keep track of, I guess, for both of us. This is like basically I kind of did the categories are essentially August continued surveillance, Villa's mindset, i.e. how can I hide the most real yet terrifying thing I've ever felt. Burgeoning feelings, Willa edition, burgeoning feelings, Simon edition.
Yeah.
Also, for non-native English speakers, I just realized I pulled out some stuff. IE means like in other words, and burgeoning means like growing.
You know what? I'm glad you just defined burgeoning, because I was just gonna let you roll with it. I had no idea what you were talking about.
I do this, but it's like I wouldn't change.
Hey, you gotta make
myself.
that English major work. I respect that.
Yeah, thanks for respecting the hustle.
I love a good bit.
But I think that definitely makes sense. And one thing to establish, I think that I want to establish is two things that I feel like we should table for later, in like for like later discussions, and like just decide that we're not going to talk about them because they're not entirely relevant.
Okay.
August's entire backstory that we get in this episode, and the fact that and Simon's whole deal with like with his like second deal with August of agreeing to get him the drugs.
Yeah.
Because I think because like those none of those actually have directly to do with what we're talking about in this episode, which is what Simon and Wilhelm's like dynamic. Like and like they deserve to be in character episodes.
Absolutely.
And in Love Memorials. So like
100%.
Yeah. With that being said, like we should just actually start chronologically, I think, because there's a lot to talk about.
Okay.
Is that good with you?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
I love how I was like, without even talking about it, I feel like we've just established a thing, like a thing where like we just keep saying the descriptor scene. Like we just like that's like kind of how our words we've like discovered how we talk about the show. I feel like throughout the last like 13 episodes. And so this opening one I call the on the table scene.
I also called it the on the table scene.
Yeah. So essentially, also I might cut this, but so as a disclaimer, I only watched reaction content for this because I was as mentioned, I was pressed for time. So like if there are scenes that were cut out of the reaction content that like you want to talk about, having watched the entire episode, like definitely stop me if I try to move on, and you're like, no, like there's something we still need to cover.
Okie dokie.
Yep. So with the on the table scene, I have that under like August's continued surveillance, and Villa's mindset and burgeoning feelings Villa edition, but not under burgeoning feelings Simon edition. Because like something I feel like I want to kind of highlight is like the first part of this episode is really English major term focalized, which means like from the point of view of Villa. Which I feel like I have used in a previous episode and did not define it. That's on me. but is that seem fair to you?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and like that's a good neutral term at this point, neutral thing at this point. Like I think it's just worth pointing out that like we only get Simon, and I think it is interesting at this point that like we see Simon in glimpses, before we start really getting his perspective, which I do have a like bigger point on later, but I think that's something to recognize. I don't know. August is a dick. What can I say? Like, I think, like what I mean by August continued surveillance, because like that's a punchy thing I wrote down this morning. Is like, we've already talked about it in the last episode, and I'm like, again, these are threads we're pulling from the previous episode. Like, August is like our symbol of like what we're doing here, like what. Of like he's the stand-in for the royal family. Like we've established this in the first episode. And so now August's presence is just like Villa's anxiety personified. And so like August is in the context of this dynamic, August is there to push Wilhelm's anxiety buttons.
Yeah, and he does a damn good job. Because he is always there monitoring everything that Wilhelm does.
Yeah, which I guess like talking about like what literally happens, because this is a plot discussion. Like, like the on the table scene that will get like in and of itself that is going to get a larger discussion later. In terms of just like the bonkers nature of that tradition. But I think what is important right now is the idea that like Wilhelm. Like it is established thing, like you are meant to be completely open and honest about all of your like romantic / sexual exploits.
It's also incredibly toxic.
The straightest thing I've ever heard.
Like we can put that out there as well.
No offense to the straight people in the audience. Those are synonyms to me. Like when I say something is very straight, what I mean is usually that it's very toxic.
You have to stop making me laugh. My audio is gonna suck. Okay. No, but you're right.
Oh God. I am on it today, listeners. Full disclaimer: I do not have that much sleep in me. But regardless, it is, and this is basically where we figured out that August, fully believes Felice and Villa hooked up and is trying to get Willa to admit it.
Oh my God, it's remarkable.
Which is the most hilarious bit of dramatic irony the show has done yet. Like, because again, it goes back to something we've said over and over again, literally in Purple and Orange. Like, I'm like, how can no one tell that Villa isn't straight? Yeah. Like, it's so, like, to us, it is so obvious, but I think is such a testament to how good Villa's mask is. Yeah. Or at least to the people
who are just seeing
who
the future
are seeing what they want to see. But like focusing on the Villa and Simon of it all, like our only bit of it in this scene is that little look at the end of this scene that it's like it has been put in Villa's head, like
he's like, oh,
getting your dick sucked. And like, just like, again, if someone watched the entire episode and didn't realize what was happening, which has not happened to my knowledge ever. But it's like, oh, like, again, if you couldn't tell, Villa is sexually attracted to Simon. Like, it's so...
I don't know if you had to spell that one out.
Exactly. But I'm saying, like, again, like, if you could, like, they're like, okay, if you couldn't tell from the everything about last episode. Yeah, you couldn't
tell about everything in the last episode. You can tell by about the first minute of this episode. How long does that scene even last? Less than a minute, probably. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. But I think, it is a great cold open. Like it's a great like opener to the episode because it like I think I'm gonna kind of almost like in the future, I think I'm gonna actually start doing this is like kind of like ranking cold opens, not literally, but like like roughly based on like how many threads they hit on at once.
Mm-hmm.
Because like this is a great setup to like where Villa is as a character, like checking in.
Yeah.
Like this is you know exactly where he's at by the end of the scene. What's the next scene you want that we should talk about? Because I'm kind of losing the like direct order of the plot, so I'm glad you took like exactly your notes.
After on the table, they go to math class.
Oh god. Oh yes.
Quite the reaction to math class.
Oh my god, no, because like rewatching a scene for this week of hilarious, because I think I was the one who narrated it. I was like, oh, it's so good, because it's like, once again, I feel like the beginning of this episode is like, again, if you couldn't tell, like if you are completely oblivious, like they are at this point just like ramming you over the head of being like. Villa turns to Simon, it's like wants to say something, gets interrupted, and you're like, ah! It's like, again, something I kind of do want to table. Like, it's relevant that Villa is the one who tells him this, but beyond that, like Simon's whole deal with it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fully fit into this. It's like of like his whole like getting like needing to get paid tutoring or feeling like he does. Like, but I think the fact that Villa is the one who like Simon's building up a closer enough relationship to get that access to the privileged ones at the school is relevant, but kind of only insofar as like Villa doesn't realize what impact that's going to have on Simon. Villa also feels like he's trying to make he kind of sees that as Lily just like making a connection.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to help him out, but he doesn't know Simon or his situation enough to understand what saying that to him will do. Yeah.
Right. A theme I think in this episode to me is Simon and Villa get along really well, but there are moments that do show you that they're both fully in their own perspective and they have not crossed over to each other's side. At all.
Yeah.
And like this is Villa's first real one for me, where I was like, oh yeah, you don't realize how devastating that would be to someone who is working class.
Yeah.
Or at least middle class. I don't really know how we can really classify Simon. But like from what I can understand, like I think Simon is kind of meant to generally be like represented as like a like regular person. Yeah. Like as regular as you can be. Which is like goes to something that we brought up in our like corrections episode. Like socialist boy in Swedish is sosa, or roughly pronounced like that, which basically means like a normal person, but is a insult among the upper classes.
Right.
It is used casually and like without like in like as like a neutral term among pretty much everyone else in Sweden, but like to August it is a slur. Like it is essentially. And it's like I say that just to say like we were a little bit we were maybe reading a little bit into the whole socialist angle of it, like a bit as Americans. Like it's just like that's a much more loaded word than it is in Sweden. For us. But I think but it's still like it is a moment of Villa not recognizing like what that like that there is a disconnect and like what that will mean on the other end of that disconnect. But I think I don't know, I think that's pretty much all I have to say on that. Like it's just like it's real good, and it does actually also impact something that I will bring up later, just about basically like I'm the thing I'm subtly paying attention to and have listeners thinking about and Margaret thinking about is like, how is Villa reacting around Simon and how is Simon reacting around Wilhelm? And how does their level of out of the closetness like affect that? Yeah. It like theoretically. And I think that's just like, again, that's like, again, a thing to recognize in this scene is like Villa is just like way more obvious than Simon is. In terms about liking Simon versus like Simon, I don't think is actually playing it off pretty well. like I wouldn't be able to tell. Like I'm kind of oblivious about that sort of thing, but also like
Yeah, I'd agree. I think part of it is,
and like we don't have to like totally deep on that because that's like a big discussion for later. But
yeah. But I agree with what you're saying. I think Willa is very obvious, and that gets me to my next scene actually. And it's when they're boating, they're doing their rowing practice, and
sorry,
Wilhelm
I'm gonna keep having reactions to like every single thing because holy fucking god, it's so this is a scene that I have in caps in my notes for listeners to know because like specifically under Willa's mindset, because I feel like this is such an illustration of what I mean when I say how can I hide the most real yet terrifying thing I've ever felt.
Yeah.
What were you saying? What were you saying?
Yeah. So with Wilhelm being worse at hiding it than Simon, I look at this next scene at rowing practice when there are people who are like trying to get the boat out of the water right in front of him, and he's just like staring. Yes, that's exactly at Simon. Not even clocked into what is happening directly in front of him. Literally, he almost gets hit by the boat.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was gonna say.
And
like
he's just like pretty boy.
Like, and the way, and like again, like I narrated the scene, and I think there's the way that I kind of framed it and like really diving deep into it is that like it's actually a highlight that I will probably bring up in a later episode. That it's like I didn't realize this until watching it back for this week at Lershka, that it's a thread that is carry on from the previous episode of other people doing things because Villa is a prince and him not liking it because he asked to help with the boat, and then they're like, no, we got it. And I feel like that is our version of the Henry and Walter moment from last episode. It's way more subtler. I don't know how many times have I seen the scene, but like I did not realize it. Like it is this instance of, again, like Villa literally, he raises up a hand to try to help anyways, and then he like forgets literally about his anxiety about being a prince to then fixate on his anxiety about liking Simon. Like it is a role reversal in that moment of he stops being the Prince of Sweden and he starts being a guy with a crush on another guy.
Yeah, 100%.
And like in all point of fact, what Simon and Villa like talk about in this scene is fairly innocuous. Like it means very nothing. But like it is the underlying tone of that entire scene that kills me. And the thing that, like, again, because it is so meaningless, the switch up when August appears is the thing that made that retroactively paints that scene as romantic, because it is like it could be relative. Like if we weren't so attuned to Villa, I think and I didn't see behind the scenes with him so much in the last episode. There's a world in which we write off that scene as like not meaning much, and then you, and then you get Villa shutting down.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And like I want to cover this scene again later in greater detail, and I don't want to like dwell on it now. But like, my God, like it and I've, as mentioned in my like summary, like. What Villa's concluding action in this scene is like, again, the straightest of goodbyes that I've ever that I can think of. The bro tap, like it's just like
the bro slap returns.
For fans of Heartstopper, it's in the first episode of Heartstopper 2. Like it is a thing. Yes. Spoilers for season 1. Like. Spoilers for first episode
season
of
1 or 2.
It is after Nick pulls Ben off of Charlie, and he's like you have nothing to be like, the whole like you have nothing to be sorry about whole thing. He's like we should probably get out before we get locked in. Like right before that, like he gives him a bro tap, like Nick does to Charlie.
I'm actively pulling up Netflix.
But like again, it is a relevant thing. Like this is like it doesn't exclusively exist in
No,
immortals. I think again,
me.
like this just shows how smart the writing is, that like this is a thing that I have not like personally experienced, but it makes so much sense to me as like the minimal amount of physical contact that straight culture will allow guys to have that still can be suddenly read as like physical contact, and it's like just enough that it's just like if one or both of you are queer, like you're gonna read something into that and not want to.
Yeah. Wait. I'm waiting for the episode to show. Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
On the arm.
No, yeah.
I didn't doubt you.
Like,
I just needed to see it with my
a little
own
bit differently,
eyeballs.
but like and totally different context.
Yeah.
But like again, like it is
It's the accepted amount of physical contact.
Yeah, exactly. And on a larger level, like I definitely do want to talk about what happens immediately, like after the rotap of like eventually later, because I don't think we have time to fully get in right now, like of Wilhelm. Word, if you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, he chortles.
It comes back.
Yes, and Simon looks very frustrated. Like it like, and like that again, that is really our first like glimpse into like Simon's whole deal. But again, I have so much to say. I personally have too much to say on that to like slow down the episode right here and just discuss it. So I think from what I can tell, I believe the next is the Instagram stalking scene.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, which I just realized we did not follow our rule of starting with what was in the cold open. That's
no,
fine.
we didn't, but that's okay. We got sidetracked.
Yeah, forgive us, listeners. But like also it's our own rule, so we can break it if we want to.
Hell yeah. So he's like laying in bed and he's scrolling through, or he opens Instagram and searches for Simon and he scrolls through his page. And then August bursts into the room and thinks he's been jerking off. This is the only time y'all are going to catch me voluntarily talking about jerking off.
Yeah. Felice was against Margaret's will. Like that was
against
my fault.
My will. It was.
Well, no.
It was mine because I spaced out the episodes.
You did. Yeah, you're right. I was going to say, yeah.
But I'm still going to blame Anton.
That's odd. You can. It was my idea to break up scenes like that. So, you know.
This podcast was also your idea.
So
was
at
it?
third of it. I was like, hey, want to start a podcast?
That's true. So I can still blame you for this.
So, but August, it says so much. It says so much that August assumed that Villa was masturbating when he wasn't even like, not to get into, not getting into like the particulars of this, but like, that isn't even a like it like arguably kind of, but like, oh God, you're
gonna have to carry this because you're the only aloe one here.
I know. And okay.
I don't know what the hell you're getting into.
You're good. Full send. I'm just having the realization that I'm gonna have to trigger. I'm gonna have to trigger warning masturbating on this again, and I fucking hate that.
At least, wait, no, I can't say because then you'll have to trigger warn it. But I hope you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When I talked about that fan fiction.
Yeah. And so like okay. Why am I being so weird about this?
I don't know. Masturbation is normal. Talk about it.
I know. Yeah, I am. Okay. I feel like also as the Ella one here, I also deal with the society's sexual shame in a different way. Anyways,
valid.
Who masturbates like that? like,
yeah.
It doesn't, like, unless it is the most low key thing ever. It just doesn't make sense. Like, it's just it is wild that August leaps there, and like it just like speaks so highly to, again, his continued surveillance, and on top of that, just like even going further, like his complete ignorance of Willow's privacy.
Yeah.
But okay, quick note. Simon's Instagram is public.
Yeah, it is.
That always gets me every time. And like it shouldn't, but I find that fascinating.
Explain, because my Instagram, I believe, is public. Actually, I don't remember whether it is or not.
I think yours is private. But anyways, I just why do I have so many feelings about this?
I don't know.
We've discussed like how like Simon is different from Villa in the sense that like he doesn't like the fact about how much he is like ignored.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, I didn't even realize it till literally this moment. I might have realized it earlier and forgot, but like that contextualizes a later scene that we will get to of Simon posting Villa on his story, because that means literally anyone could see it.
Yeah, I think that's why Simon had to.
It's not why Simon had to delete it, but it was like, but it is like a thing where it's like, I'm always kind of honestly baffled when a private citizen doesn't have a private account. Personally, like just because that's just like not how I operate. And so like, I think it's just like it makes like it could literally just like on one hand it could literally just be like for the show, like it would be clunky to try to like have Villa have to wait for Simon to approve his friend request.
That would be weird.
Approve his following request, and like because it's like how can you Instagram stalk someone if they don't have a public account, like and so like on one hand it's the necessity of the story, on the other hand it speaks so much to Simon's character, and it has so many implications for like the idea of like Simon contributing to the surveillance of Villa unintentionally.
I didn't think about that part before, but yeah, you're right.
And so like Villa is this it's this thing where Villa is doing something like we call it Instagram stalking kind of lovingly, at least on my part. Like it's
lovingly. Having a stalker is scary. We're not saying he's genuinely stalking Wilhelm.
No, like it is. I personally put it Instagram stalking in quotation mark because I'm like, that feels connotation wise not what's happening here. Yeah. It is. I have a crush on this person. I just want to look at their face, which is like so cute.
Yeah, it is kind of cute.
And like the fact that like he's like dwelling on like that, like also reminds me. I translated the caption of Simon of the post that he lingers on.
What does it say?
Let me find it. It's in my. If I had done my episode notes sooner, I would have already had it copy and pasted into this doc. But I need to find this video. Okay. Okay. I forgot this was 19 pages. Okay.
Yeah, it was long.
These ones always are. Oh, here it is. I mean, it's like honestly relatively like kind of meaningless. Well, like also his bio says music makes my world go round, male runner emoji.
Yeah.
And in Swedish below that it says followed by Felice, Sarah, and 2 others.
Ooh.
Which is like, okay, again, like how do people just Villa follow?
Yeah.
And so it's like, who like. We can't figure out who those 2 others are, but like the idea that like, like
no, I get you.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me. Like the Felice part is like me knowing what I know, I'm not surprised, but I feel like if you pick up the deal now, picking up that detail now, you're like, Felice follows Simon.
Yeah.
Like so, like basically, we have no non-spoiler way to unpack that, so
we won't
put that there. Yeah. But like I'm like what I said is he follows the public page without hesitation, taps the most recent post and starts scrolling back through Simon's feed, and he takes a deep breath and sighs. Keeps going until backtracking to hold a selfie of Simon and Sarah in a red glow. And this is what I didn't say in the episode but do have written down. The caption is in Swedish: picture of her sister. Picture of the sister and her biggest idol, rose emoji, star emoji.
Aww.
And so it's like a teasing post about Sarah.
Yeah.
But also, like, I think it's just like one where I think ultimately it kind of is like a, like, arguably you could be like, oh, it's just like a post where like Villa thinks Simon looks good, but like he can read the caption. We couldn't until I translated it. Which also that translation might not be fully there. I will fully admit this was Google translated. I wasn't about to find a better Swedish to English translator for when I was filling this out. But so, yeah. But like the idea that, like, I don't know, you could definitely read into this further. And like, what is this podcast for, other than reading into it further?
Absolutely.
Like, seeing a relationship with like Simon and his sister. Like, I feel like that post also does really show a side of Simon's personality that like he doesn't show at school.
Right.
Like it's like it's a little silly. It's like has like it's a little bit of like a tongue-in-cheek humor that like you might get as his vibe, but like you couldn't necessarily from like how like rightly but also rude he is to like almost like pretty much everyone at school. Like it like his Instagram does show a side of him that like Villa is seeking out and like is getting.
Yeah. I don't know if I would say rude. I'd say closed off. Defensive.
Valid. Well, I mean, like, I'm like, what, like, I mean, like, calling out Henry for his father's wealth, again, valid, like, is definitely pushing against the grain.
Yeah,
but, like, we've unpacked this, Simon the Bold.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But I will say, one last thing I personally want to talk about here is, again, August continued surveillance, like, the fact that Villa is freaking out about just looking at this boy's Instagram. Which, again, valid based on everything we've talked about how August thinks of the potential for Villa and Simon even being friends. Yeah. But, like, worth noting, continuing this thread of, like, needing to just, like, shut it down. And, like, the moment where Villa doesn't know if his phone is locked.
Yeah.
When August straight up takes it from him.
Yeah.
And, like, panic. Just utter panic. Like, it is hilarious to me how these completely harmless, like relatively harmless things become triggers for a near or actual panic attack. Like when other people get involved.
Yeah.
Like Villa is already like deep breathing while going through it. While scanning scanning through the Instagram, and then is just like silently like just like freaking out when August takes his phone.
Yeah.
So. But I guess the next thing I think I have is immediately right after that was like the morning workout scene, which. Don't have tons to talk about, but okay. More obvious signs if you couldn't fucking tell. I love this so much. Like, it's one of my favorite things in the entire episode. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm assuming you know what I'm talking about. Or it's like, I don't want to go on the morning workout. See Simon.
I'm going to go on the morning workout. See ya.
I'm leaving the morning workout, Eric. Like, can we talk later? Like, again, his biggest support system up to this point.
Yeah.
He's like, let's talk after I get to hang out with my crush.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. That's sort of the entire reason why I wrote this scene down, because it was, I don't want to get up and go to this workout, and then it was, oh fuck, Simon's there, I gotta go.
Yeah. And I love it because I think, spoilers, I feel like this will definitely show up in Art of the Choice, because it is a genius bit of acting from Edvin. Like, it is the most subtle and obvious thing on earth.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell if Eric can tell, but we can tell, and that is genius acting of walking the line of being like sort of pulling off an excuse, but like us fully knowing what the reason for that excuse is.
Yeah. And then, like, slightly later, but in that same scene, when they are all dying from their planks, which, valid, planks suck ass. Oh,
yeah.
Bad time. But they look up at each other, and suddenly they're not dying. They just smile. And I don't know what
Yeah.
psychopath can smile while doing a plank. Certainly not me.
Yeah. And I think beyond the very end of the rowboat scene, which is a kind of a different energy, but like kind of achieves the same result. Like we're seeing, even though we're really in Willa's perspective, like we are getting little hints. I mean, we got enough last episode, but like they kind of drop off the face of the earth at the start of this episode that Simon also likes Willa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like it becomes like because as established already, I believe Simon is way better at hiding his feelings.
Yeah.
And it is, which is so fascinating to me. And it's it's like, again, these little moments of like when they're just having direct eye contact, where like Simon can't hide it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like neither of them can really fully hide from each other.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Which is like immediately followed by the morning workout scene in my notes. No, not sorry. Oh, God. Followed by the studying scene. Which again, we're starting to kind of run into more of the same. Like Willa is like looking over at Simon constantly, and side note, Felice is doing the same thing to Willa, which awkward.
Yeah. A little bit.
But like Simon never looks up until August sits down.
Right.
Like, I mean, this has to do with other Simon things that are going on that we're not discussing in this episode and that we've tabled because they don't have to directly do with Willa and Simon's relationship. Like, he is stressing because like he just got his first bad grade ever.
Yeah.
But it is like still worth noting that he is able to focus way better than Wilhelm is.
And there's also no way, at least the way I read the scene, that he does not, because you know how you can just like feel somebody staring at you? Willa is like body turned, head turned, staring at Simon at one point. And Simon does not look up.
No. And like, again, like going into things that I feel like I saw like at the end of the rowboat scene, I think he's like a little done. Like, it's like he had a little bit of slip up with the morning workout in the morning workout, but like he literally like he's like this boy is too confusing for me to deal with right now, in the sense that like Willa is acting strange and like Simon cannot be sure where he stands and what the fuck is happening.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
Like I like respectfully or even disrespectfully, like, I do not have time for you. Like, this is important to me. I am here as a commuter student. Like, I need to fucking prove myself.
Yeah.
Like it is a like on one hand, like Admiral, like it's like Admiral Simon has quite admirable self-preservation in this episode until he doesn't.
Yeah. I'd agree.
And so, but I think this is also under, as I called it, August continued surveillance, because he sits down. Like, I mean, this is a thing that like reactors talk about all the time. They're like, why is August always fucking there?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's because he represents the royal family. Like, we need to have Willa constantly be reminded of the pressure on him.
Right. And
that's the point. That's the purpose that August serves at this point in the narrative. And God, what August says, like we'll unpack it probably in future episodes. It's not fully relevant here, but like the way that he insults Simon without insulting him is masterclass. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not saying no one should ever like copy him, but like, oh my God, like that is like, oh my God,
yeah,
like, masterclass in how to bully someone with full plausible deniability.
Yeah.
Like, you never say something actually mean until they're gone. And Simon knows exactly what he's saying, which is like, it is a clear subtext of like, get the fuck away from the prince right the fuck now.
Yeah.
And Simon gets the message. Again, I think going into like the mindset that I see in this scene of like, I don't have time for you. Like, as soon as he gets any pushback from August, he's like, I did like hanging out with Willa. Like, I will admit that, but like, not worth it. I'm leaving. And then again, like the whole thing of like, I don't know, just like, I just want to flag the whole like Simon again, just going on with his thing of, I don't care. Like, this is also where he's like, oh, I can't make it to practice tonight after Villa asks, like Villa's like, oh no, he's leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh no, like, I need to make sure, I didn't know when I like, again, Villa being obvious, like, I need to know when I can see you again.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you coming to the workout tonight, right? He's like, oh no, I can't. And then August like first time really Simon like he like really goes into Simon hard.
Yeah.
And Simon's like, whatever. I literally can't. Like, but then I think important distinction, he doesn't tell August the reason.
Right.
Because he doesn't deserve the reason.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, can't go, setting that boundary, like, don't.
Yeah.
Which leaves Villa in like a complete spiral.
Yeah.
Which,
she's like,
according to your notes, does that lead into the next scene?
Yes.
Which I called the texting scene. And because like I feel like it's our first like really extended texting sequence of the show.
It is. Yeah.
A thing this show will do occasionally. That as a native English speaker, I think is always very interesting. Of just like kind of just seeing the way they're representing texting in Swedish, and then which they do text in like full sentences, which feels slightly like, but like appreciate it, like needed it. But like, yeah. But it is interesting that like Villa can't let go of the reason.
Yeah.
Of knowing the reason.
Yeah. It's like hours later and he's like, why isn't he going to practice?
Like he's trying to do homework. This man is trying to do homework and he's like, why aren't you going to practice? And then funniest bit of acting in the entire episode, in my opinion, panic attack. Near panic attack immediately. Like the most fidgety we've ever seen him from sending the most harmless texts. Again, like these all are harmless things to do, but it's like it is your feelings about them that show how you're actually feeling, my guy.
Yeah,
like,
no, absolutely. Because it literally does not have to mean anything. You're just asking someone, why aren't you going to practice?
Yeah.
But
yeah, like it doesn't. Yeah, that's a valid question to ask, and like it's not assuming anything.
Right.
Like it's just.
But because of his feelings towards Simon, I'm undecided whether he's identified what they are yet or not. I don't think he has.
Yeah, I don't think he can't. I think he's in the like precognition stage where he's like, they are there and they are definitely like informing all of his decisions.
Yeah.
But I don't think he could not. I don't even know if he could verbalize to himself what the fuck is going on.
Which is why I think he's worse at hiding it than Simon.
Oh yeah.
Because Simon is like, this is what I'm feeling, and nobody can know about it. Whereas Willa is like, I'm feeling things. I don't know what they are.
And he's just acting on them, not realizing what they mean and what the ramifications are until there is just enough of a reminder for him to subconsciously be like, shut it down. And then Simon does think Villa deserves a reason at least, or like decides to tell him it, and then a reason, something that I had just like burned into my memory because it made me. I think it might have fully cemented my love for Simon. Tag along if you dare, smirking emoji.
Where's my note for it? I said the teasing, flirting Simon, you cheeky bastard.
Yes. Again, like. I for a while until I added some of the previous stuff I've talked about, I thought this was like honestly our like first sign that like Simon might feel the same. And I think it's Villa's first sign, which is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because it's like you had that whole scene at the party last episode that I genuinely kind of do believe like this is Wilhelm's first clue.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think.
Because I don't know how many times Wilhelm's going over that scene at the party in his head, but I think it's an entirely different thing from what actually happened at this point in his head.
Yeah.
Like, I think he has recontextualized that memory to hell and back. Like, it's like completely harmless. We are just friends. It meant nothing. Like, it is. Yeah. And I don't know if you would call them friends, honestly, because like, that would involve also incurring the wrath of August. Like, he's just a person I talk to sometimes.
Yeah.
And hang out with willingly.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is really, not thinking about it, I feel like the Instagram stalking scene is actually also part of this. But I think that and the texting scene are like, again, our moments of where getting Willa alone, where once again, as we've mentioned, like these are our access to Villa. This is our access to Villa without any sort of filter, where if he's aware of the camera on him, he is too in his feelings to care.
Yeah.
Because we just fully see where, like, this is the first scene where I feel like I don't see Villa's mindset of needing to hide present.
Yeah.
Really. Like, I think he is still, I think for me, it is the thing of like, are you handling this about how the same level I feel like as an out person would?
Right.
In terms of actions, not feelings, because feelings are a different thing. But like, I think for me, and even then, like I feel like it makes sense to be nervous about that, even if you are fully out. Like it's texting your crush. Like it is the most, like, it is like one of the most nerve-wracking things ever. And you get to this thing where it's like, you get Villa just being, again, he stops being a prince.
Mm-hmm.
And then he becomes a prince and everything that comes with it as soon as August enters the room.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been talking for a while in this episode. How do you read like August's influence on this scene by the end?
I agree with you. I think August is always there to be the reminder of the responsibilities that Wilhelm does have. And I think that August sees himself as Wilhelm's protector. And in being Wilhelm's protector, he's protecting him from Simon, who he sees as like a bad person for Wilhelm to be around.
Yeah. I also just realized, I think I'm going to agree with my past self. Willa does say, I think to start off with him not having that his mindset like in place of needing to hide, but then he's like, August will be mad if I leave.
Mm-hmm.
So that he's at least flagging that, which again doesn't necessarily have to be a sexuality thing. It could just be like, I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But like there are layers to it that that shouldn't be ignored.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, if August figured out that I was sneaking out and breaking the rules to see you, like, I don't want to know what that means.
Yeah.
Villa does do some of the funniest acting in the entire episode and pretends to be sick.
He grabs his throat.
It just like he's like sorry if that was disgusting for listeners. I didn't think about that before I did it.
Okay.
But it was like it's just great. Again, it's gonna show up in our other choice, so we don't have to like dwell on it. But it's just like, again, plot wise, he gets.
What cracks me up is his voice sounds completely fine, and then he's like, throat hurts. I was sore throat. Yeah. But then again, the things that August and other people are willing to believe just because the Willa says it. Like, you don't want to criticize the prince and question whether or not he's lying. Like, you don't want to call the prince a liar. Like, that is that's a bad move. Yeah. And so he just is like, oh, feel better. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we have Villa sneaking out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, how are you?
When they say it at the same time.
I love this episode so much.
This episode is so good.
And like this moment is almost like singularly why. Like, it's like I feel like when I watched this for the first time, I do distinctly remember pausing after that. Because I'm like, oh my God, I'm pretty sure is what I was like. I was like, come on. Now you're just being unfair with how much I meant to love them.
It's quintessential awkward first hangout with the person you like.
Yeah. But also just like a real sign that they are on the same page, and neither of them fully knows it. Like the idea that like both of them are equally nervous, and they ask how are you at the same time. Like they are in sync in a way that I think not even they recognize until like that moment.
Yeah.
Because it's like outside of Hilershka, we start seeing a different side of Villa that like we haven't even seen. Would you agree with that?
I would. Yeah.
And like he's not a drastically different person, but it's just like there's a freedom to the way he's walking.
Yeah, he's not, I don't want to call him rigid because that doesn't describe how he is in school, but when he's in school, you can tell that he feels the pressure and he's weighed down by the pressure. But outside of school, he is not showing that he feels weighed down by the pressure of who he is.
Yeah, and as I believe, like mentioned recently, he does like carry himself like a prince even in this scene. Like he still has all of the like posture training of a prince. So it's like you can't totally forget it, but like he again, like around Simon, he stops feeling like a prince. I don't necessarily want to keep saying that because I don't think it's always going to be true and everything. Like there are things to be like how can that possibly be true, sort of thing. But like you think he at least wants it to be true, and then he gets reminded when those girls come up being like, "Hi, Prince."
Yeah.
Which leads to a thing that again I do think warrants a bigger discussion later of your life sounds a lot like mine.
Yeah.
Which like what comments like right before that, and then that's like the immediate refutation. Like Villa is trying so hard to like not be Prince.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, our lives sound similar," like trying to relate to Simon, which I think is somewhat warranted and somewhat not. And so and then like immediately we get like, "Oh, there's ways in which your life is not like mine."
But I also like not like his because it's on such a larger scale that he gets recognized when he's just out and about. But Simon's whole point was that like everybody knows who everybody in town is. So like those girls aren't going to be like, "Hi, Simon," because he's just like a teenager in town. But it's that recognition. Like, Wilhelm also experiences that recognition of everybody knows who I am and what I'm doing, and everybody feels entitled to know. Yeah.
And also, like, the rich circles are quite insular. Like, that's a famous, that's like, and like, especially the rich. Like, it's like, it is, you, like, everyone knows everybody. Everyone knows everyone's business, as we saw at the start of this episode.
Yeah.
At the very start of this episode. Like, it is a thing that you don't keep secrets because secrets create division and we need to be unified. And it is, I think, again, it is like Simon finds it hilarious because it's like, do you recognize the amount of privilege you have? But then also by this point we do see Villa's side. But also I do like how Simon takes it in stride. I don't know. I guess just following these threads, I guess, is that how are you leads into walking the soccer field leads into the hot dog scene.
Yeah, I mean, can we just get to the hot dog scene?
Yeah, it's just like it's just it is again Simon's first case of being obvious. Like he is stopped like getting this first recognition that like, wait, maybe we're on the same page. Like someone, like again, Simon is one who's a little bit more aware of what's going on, but also doesn't really. I don't think he wants to be.
Yeah.
Because on some level he does kind of recognize how messy this is, but also he doesn't. Also, again, like he doesn't want to either. Like I think the part of the reason why he takes that like in stride of those girls saying "Hi, Prince" is that like he kind of also wants to forget that Wilhelm is the prince. I think.
Yeah.
Or is forgetting, or doesn't understand what that means, which is another point I have for our big points. Where like, yeah, he just doesn't get it. And that's fine. I think it's just worthy of note that he doesn't, and going into that, he doesn't get that that taking a video of Villa is just kind of categorically bad.
Yeah, it's a much bigger deal than if it was just a picture of him and Aya.
Oh yeah. But I do think this is kind of where the switch happens, where we start getting more of Simon at this point, as he stops being able to hide from us almost.
Yeah.
His feelings. Where we see him, we have the motorcycle scene, which like all I really have to say is love it. Like it's like,
yeah.
Like how much we can like this is meant to be a discussion. We can't just like totally just like spend all the time like gushing over the stuff that like doesn't have tons of plot relevance, but it's just like yes.
I mean, can we talk about Simon's brain buffering when Wilhelm asks him which kind of hot dog or whatever it was he wants?
Yeah, I know. I did see a Tumblr post being like, can we talk about the possible sexual innuendo of this? Is it okay? I'm like, and they said it like a fact that like this show does things with food, and I'm like, does it? Like I never realized that.
Does it really?
Apparently, like they were like, as we've established, and I'm like, I missed that discussion.
What else?
Like, we do not have time. I don't think. Like this is a thematic discussion for another day potentially. But like,
chime off in our Instagram comments if you know what the hell they're talking about. Because now I'm curious.
I know. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like we get the innuendo part of it, but also like I didn't get that from that scene personally. Really. And then we do have like again August interfering and being like, "Ha, caught you."
Yeah.
Be careful the company you keep, I believe is the line. And like especially if they're if they're using you for views.
Yeah.
And like we can definitely discuss this more in Love Among Royals in terms of because this is really more of a Wilhelm and August discussion. Of like what that interaction means. Of like what is August? What is the button August think he's pushing there? And what is he actually pushing? And is it actually the same? Like, is it like, are they thinking the same thing? And like, and has he once again like brought Villa over to his side in some way, which we do see in this episode. Like, this is the first episode I really start having moments what I call like, where I'm kind of disappointed in Villa, where like he is starting to conform, like actively, despite how much he was initially resistant to it, or like didn't, or just like clearly doesn't want to, but like is doing it. The longer he's here and the longer he's around August. From that point, we just have the movie panic attack and first kiss scenes.
Yes.
Which, like, those just need their own discussion at the end of the day. Like, we can't talk about them that much in the time we have left. Both arbitrarily and also Margaret has to get somewhere.
Yeah, I got therapy.
Yeah. And so, like, yeah, I don't know of how much I can say other than finally it comes together. Finally, the burgeoning feelings Simon edition, burgeoning feelings Villa edition interact in a place where Villa's mindset is clearly present because August's surveillance is present. And like, it's not even August who sees them, it is Sarah. But it is at that point, his anxiety becomes that anyone seeing them, even Simon's own sister, is like threat level maximum. I need to get out of this situation. And like, quick shout out that will definitely be discussed at length later. Like, I mean, we already talked about like, but our Wilhelm character episode was Wilhelm the Anxious. But I do feel like it actually was potentially a missed opportunity because this is the most realistic depiction of a panic attack I've ever seen depicted on film.
Correct. And say it again for the people who didn't hear it the first time. This is the best depiction of a panic attack I've ever seen.
I don't know what to say beyond that. Like, it is amazing. And like, it's not, and like, it is relevant in this episode as far as like, that was triggered by his feeling for Simon. And like, again, like it is not the literal actions necessarily that are marked as queer or as indicative of anything, but it's your feelings about them.
Yeah.
That indicate your mindset, where you're at, like how you're handling these emotions and what is happening to you. And then there's the first kiss, which I will probably talk about for approximately, I am kind of exaggerating, but not much, like 50 minutes next episode. So I need to just like finally, but also a thing I reiterated, but like couldn't like directly bring up because it was just in the cold open of This Week Hilarica, but that's not how This Week Hilarica works, that we can't like discuss things within it. Their first mutual kiss, Villa initiated.
Yes.
Which means so much to me because I didn't even realize it until this point. And until I did it for This Week Hilarica. And it's so impactful to me. That like we've been talking about how like Villa doesn't really recognize what is happening. And finally we get it. Mm-hmm. Finally we get his version of Simon's, of where Simon already was at the end of last episode.
Yeah.
Of like after having already been like, he did kind of like, it was without his consent, which is something I always kind of butt up against a little bit. Like I didn't really see a clear indicator, even a clear nonverbal indicator of consent before Simon kisses him. But just based on the scene, how the scene plays out, like it literally, like Wilhelm could not have acted on his feelings otherwise.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that.
I also believe that.
And something that I will talk about at length about, but just kind of a Cliff Notes version, a little summary, is like for their first mutual kiss, which is like the most fascinating to me. It is this push and pull of neither of them wanting to fully rob the moment from the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And like Simon stops halfway and lets Villa come the other half.
Yeah.
Like meet him in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. Like it is a moment of full payoff of everything we've been setting up the entire episode.
Yes.
Like this is the episode I think, even more than the pilot, proves to me how well written the show is.
Yes, I agree.
Like sometimes people say like you can have a good pilot, but like sometimes you have to give an episode a few episodes. Let's just give a show a few episodes before you fully get into it and like get into the rhythm of it. And this is the show establishing what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I love it so much because everything is plotted impeccably, like just amazingly. Like everything fits together in this like way that like maximizes emotion and pain at a certain point. Like it is why I kind of call this one of the hardest Netflix original shows to watch.
I agree with that because it's emotional. It's very emotionally heavy.
Like I once I once ranked this for like an article I wrote for an English class in college. I ranked like 6 Netflix originals, and if any of you have seen it, I ranked this as a harder watch than Castlevania, which is one of the most gory shows I've ever watched too. Like a show that is like has so much blood in it was easier for me to get through at a certain point, and then some scenes in Young Royals.
But not because you don't like them.
Emotional damage.
Yeah, because of emotional damage.
Yes. So, listeners, we have realized we have way too much still left to discuss and not enough time to do it. So, this is end of part 1 of Revolution for season 1, episode 2. Yes. Margaret, you want to take us out?
Yeah. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to keep up to date with when we release new episodes and other pod-related announcements, you can check out our Instagram at People Don't Talk About or our Twitter at PDTA Podcast. Our next episode will be the further discussion in our revolution.
Yes.
So stay tuned. And with that, all that's left to say is...
Let's start a revolution, baby.
Baby.